அதுலயே வெளியே
Sorry, forgot to switch on the audio. So, good evening and welcome to a new episode of the Hindu Education Plus webinar series. Today's webinar is presented by SASTRA, deemed to be university with branches in Tanjavur, Kumbakonam, and Chennai. And as you all know and can see on your screens, the topic is Career Compass Navigating Your Next Step. It is a super important theme as we all know and understand the significance of embarking on a career journey that gives us the satisfaction of aligning with our interest, aligning with our happiness, and of course, our financial needs. However, understanding and identifying the aptitude and making the right move at the right time for a successful career may or may not always be easy and smooth. The traditional degrees and options, such as medicine, engineering, accounting, law, business management, all remain relevant. But for students, the field has expanded and moved beyond. Those who dream big have a new world full of opportunities and new fields awaiting them. So, over the next hour or so, we promise you an information packed discussion on career pathways across disciplines with our extremely distinguished panel. Let me quickly introduce them to you as they are here today to guide you on informed decision making and career choices and how to be industry and real world ready. Our panelists are Dr. S. Vaidya Subramaniam, whom you can see on the screen. He is the Vice Chancellor and Tata Sons Chair Professor of Management at Shastra, deemed to be university. An alumnus of Harvard Business School with special interest in public policy and strategy management, Dr. Vaidya Subramanian is an engineering graduate with work experience in reputed MNCs such as Siemens and Johnson & Johnson. A member in various committees of Ministry of Education, the UGC, the All India Council for Technical Education, he has accumulated more than 2 decades of university teaching and research experience. An author of 3 books on education policies and a sought-after speaker, Dr. Vaidya Subramaniam is also a columnist writing for various newspapers. Welcome, sir.
Yep.
The only woman panelist today is Shruti Kannan, the India Head of Strategy and Innovation with NatWest Group, which is the British banking and insurance holding company. An accomplished techno-business leader, Shruti is also a non-executive director on the board of TVS Sensing Solutions, who leverages the transformative power of emerging technologies to drive strategic innovation, ecosystem partnerships, and scalable impact. Previously, she was the head of Cisco for Startups, leading high-impact engagements with deep tech founders, helping refine business strategies, co-developing end-to-end digital solutions, and creating joint go-to-market opportunities across sectors including manufacturing, healthcare, and agriculture. Under her leadership, Cisco Launchpad received the Best Startup Enabler Award from the government, as her work also enabled follow-on funding and strengthened the industry startup collaboration. Shruti has been named among the top 100 women in STEM in India and is recognized as one of the top 10 innovators in India. Deeply engaged with academia, Shruti contributes to shaping the next generation of innovators by actively mentoring technologists, startups, and students. She serves on the advisory boards of multiple universities and is a professor of practice at MS Ramaiah University of Applied Sciences. With degree in computer science, engineering, and psychology, Shruti is certified independent director and has specializations in digital transformation from UC Berkeley and in entrepreneurial leadership from Stanford University. A warm welcome to you, Shruti.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Anil,
Mr. Anil,
Mr. Anirudh Krishnan is an advocate and founder partner, AK Law Chambers, headquartered in Chennai with presence across India. Enrolled with the Bar Council of Tamil Nadu, he appears regularly before the Supreme Court of India and several high courts and has rights of audience before the Singapore International Commercial Court and the Dubai International Financial Centre courts. He is also a practicing solicitor of England and Wales. A graduate of Nalsar and the University of Oxford, Anirudh began his career at Clifford Chance, London, and has served on special committees of the Law Commission of India, advising on arbitration and commercial law reforms. He regularly represents Indian and international clients in complex domestic and international arbitrations seated in India, Singapore, London, Dubai, and Australia. He is the chief editor of the fifth and sixth editions of Justice R.S. Bachawat's Law of Arbitration and Conciliation, and the author of The Law of Reservation and Anti-Discrimination and Commercial Dispute Resolution. Welcome to the webinar, Anirudh.
Thank you very much.
Our final panelist is healthcare professional Dr. Sumant Raman, the founder of Algorithm Health. After graduating with an MBBS from Madras Medical College, Dr. Sumant worked as a consultant physician in various hospitals in Chennai and obtained his MD in internal medicine. An interest in the broader aspects of healthcare took him to Tata Consultancy Services as a key member of their healthcare innovation team, and there he launched a healthcare and telemedicine portal 25 years ago when the concept of e-health had not even taken root. In 2022, Dr. Sumant set up a startup company, Algorithm Health, focusing on using artificial intelligence in healthcare to deliver more accurate diagnosis and treatment. The startup is incubated by IIT Madras Research Park. However, his interests are not limited to healthcare and IIT. For close to 3 decades now, he has also been a television personality, anchoring and hosting various programs, from quiz to sports commentary, discussions to political analysis. A contributor to various national and international journals on e-health, Dr. Sumant has written articles on health, politics, and social issues for various publications. He is also the author of Sick Business, a book on the Indian healthcare industry. Welcome, Dr. Sumant. So before we set the ball rolling with inputs from our panelists, I would request all those who have joined the webinar now to start posting their questions in the Q&A box so that we can address the maximum possible questions during the course of the program. Then I would like to begin by requesting each of our panelists for their kind of 2 to 3 minute brief on the webinar topic per se. You want to what would you tell our audiences? Probably, I'm presuming that many of them would be 12th graders on the threshold of choosing a career or a course program. Like, how should they navigate this new chapter in their life once they step out of their very secure and a very safe environment of their schools? How should they choose their next course programs? And it would be also nice if all of you could kind of, talk about it, linking it to your respective specializations for the way forward. So maybe we could start with Dr. Vaidya Subramaniam.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Soma, for the generous introduction. And to take the discussions forward, as an opening remark, I would like to just extend the topic that you have given for the webinar, which starts with Career Compass. So you already have 2 C's there. So let me add 3 more C's to it. I think that at this point of time, we are seeing a convergence of timelines of competitive examinations. And just last week saw the CLAT 2025 getting over. And then maybe in the forthcoming few weeks, lakhs of students are going to take up JEE Main, the first JEE Main, and of course the second JEE Main will follow soon. And then the NEET competitive examination for admissions to medical colleges. So this is an interesting time which sees the convergence of many competitive examinations, as a result of which many of them feel that they are at a very crucial crossroads when it comes to taking decisions with regard to their career aspirations. So, with the converging timelines, they are also passing at a very crucial crossroad. And to add to the four C's is a confusing set of stakeholders, each of them giving advisory to the students as to which career promises them a lot. So, if I'm going to look at it as a committee of all these five C's, the career compass at the end of this discussion with experts joining the panel, I'm sure the audience here will definitely leave an enlightened lot, because what we are seeing today is a multitude of opportunities which are sprouting in different forms, the manifestations of them through different courses, which are getting more multidisciplinary, as a result of which the historical stereotypes are easily getting extinguished, giving students a clarity in terms of what type of courses leading to certain specific degrees will be aligned to their career aspirations. So, my opening remark is for the audience to just look out for those elements of clarity that's going to define their career steps as they move from high school to higher education.
Thank you, Dr. Vaidya Subramaniam. Uh, Shruti, would you like to
Would you
go
like to go
next?
next? Sure. So, I think leaving school or graduating from college, it doesn't mean you're losing direction. Basically, it means you're learning how to carry your own compass of sorts. So, when you are stepping out of such secure environments, three things happen. Three things change at once. One is the structure reduces. Two, the choices increase. And third, and most importantly, the responsibility shifts to you. So I become the owner of where I want to navigate to. So from my own experience, I definitely think that careers are not straight roads. They are roads that kind of update as you move. So, taking a leaf out of my own journey, I did come with a very good foundation from Vivekananda Vidyalaya, Shankara Vidyalaya, Arul Institute. The teachers gave me a very firm foundation to start off my career, which propelled me into the prestigious and oldest tech institution in Asia, which is the College of Engineering, Guindy. And then my route also, like many people, I had this doubt: should I go in the medical direction? Should I pursue a career in engineering, or should I go the musical fine art route, or should I think about something in law? All of these questions were definitely popping in my mind. But then what did resonate with me was not to look for the perfect path. What was most important is to look for the next right step. I think one step at a time, I think that really helped me to navigate things as they went by. And the choices that I did make were, I would say, out of the box. I didn't go for the most opted route, but I did think about, okay, this is a proven route, but then how can this be infused with something bit more creative than what it is? So I think that's the thought that does resonate with me when my grandmother always used to tell me that heights by great men reached and kept were not by a sudden flight, but while their companions slept, they were toiling upwards in the night. So it's about the sincerity, the resilience, the hard and the smart work that you put into every right step. I think that really carves out the perfect path in the longer run.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Shruti.
Shruti.
Mr.
Mr.
Anirudh,
Anirudh?
Yes,
Yes,
thank you.
thank
Thank you for the kind introduction. I have a few points to make. The first is
you have to unmute yourself, I think. No, I see. It's okay. Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
yes. So I have a few points to make. Firstly, my advice to all you 12th standard students would be pursue what you like, not what your peers are doing or what you are being told to do. Of course, you discuss with various stakeholders who are interested, but ultimately go by what you think really interests you. Second, if you pursue something and do not enjoy it, you realize early on that this is not cut out. Give yourself an enough opportunity to see whether you genuinely like it or not. But be bold enough to change if required. And I say this as a person who pursued engineering for a year and then changed to law. So it's a decision that today I do not regret. It is not a statement against engineering or anything of that kind, but if you realize that you're not cut out for something and that something better excites you, then be bold enough to take that decisive step. Third, when you enter college, ensure that you keep yourself busy. There will be a number of co-curricular activities that will give you a flavor of that area. So as a lawyer, if you, in the first year of law school, you can go and participate in moot court competitions, you can participate in debates, you can participate in mock United Nations, you can write papers, you can present papers at conferences, and of course, you have your academics and internships, and all of this is important. Now, all of this will help you understand whether you really like the subject and will help build your personality in that area, and the skill set will develop only in this manner. Fourth, be ready to fail. Right? Today, all of you are you looking at getting 97 or 98? There may be a situation where you will not do that well, but that's not the end of the world. Today, there is a lot of pressure. I can tell you that in the first 2 years of law school, I repeatedly attempted to get into the moot court team. I never got into it. My first moot was in the third year, and a lot of students will tell you that they would have finished 3 moots by then. Realize that, all right, even if you fail in one area, there is another area that you can pursue. I didn't get into the moot court team. I started writing. I presented at conferences, and all of this added up ultimately. So, as a youngster, please don't get disheartened if a result or two do not go your way. These would be my opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Anirudh. Over to you, Dr. Sumant.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the nice introduction. For me, I just want to make 2 or 3 very quick points. And the first point that I want to make is there is no one size fits all kind of an advice as far as this is concerned. It depends on 3 or 4 things. One, obviously, it depends on the aptitude. Second, it also depends on the family circumstances. So it is easy, for us to sometimes say we must follow our passion, which is absolutely right in most cases, but it may not always be possible. So I generally believe that there are 2 ways of looking at it. Make a list of your ambitions, your passions, and so on. Parallelly, put down what are the essentials that you need to actually go through life. Can you, for instance, go through 5 years or 10 years of a waiting period where you don't have the opportunity to actually make any significant financial contributions? So is that a possibility? Are you willing to be patient enough for something, for an idea to materialize over a period of time? Let's say you become an entrepreneur. So I think one of the key things that you need to sort of focus on is getting this 360-degree view. And please remember, unlike possibly our generation, where you exactly had 3.5 careers, you either chose engineering, or you chose medicine, or you chose law, you chose CA. That's it. There was nothing else to do. I mean, if you did anything else, even society would sort of wonder, poor chap, what is he doing? So you either had to do one of these things. Today you have 200, 500 different wonderful career options. So the literally it's a completely new world. So I would suggest that, one, enhance your skills. There are areas which you probably are not even aware of, which may be your passion. You don't even know that there may be an opening there in it. So get to know more information. Second, the career definition of a career is itself changing, right? So a career today is not what a career was 20, 30 years ago, where you joined a company and you rose to some level and then you retired. End of story. Or maybe you joined two, three companies at the most. That was a career. Today, it is possible to do multiple things. It is possible to juggle multiple. You can have something that you're passionate about on one side, at the same time something that gets you the financial returns on another side, and it's still possible to keep doing that. So my main advice to all of you would be, have an open mind, but be practical. There needs to be some element of practicality in your thinking. And while parents today are much better than what perhaps the previous generation parents were, they are more open and more receptive to ideas. But please understand that whatever they say comes with your best interest in mind. So it's when a parent says, hey, wait a minute, you may want to consider another option. Now, it's easy to be dismissive and say, I don't like it, but please understand that they're saying it with your best interests at mind. And the least that we owe them is at least to give them a patient listening and to ask ourselves, is the old man or the old lady right? Or does he or she have a point in what they're saying? Last point I want to say is, today it's all about communication and it's all about marketing yourself. You can be going in for any career. You may be the most brilliant guy. You may, be able to generate the greatest content that is available. But if you're not able to project yourself well, if you're not able to communicate well, if you're not able to market yourself well, you're not going to get very far, whatever career you go in for. So these become essential traits. Last is my pet peeve. I think AI is changing the world upside down. I work in AI, so therefore I can say that the career options of the next decade are going to be defined by two major areas, in my opinion. One is AI, and second is quantum computing, and both of these are highly linked together. So, what the world would be in 10, 15 years' time, it's very difficult to hazard a guess, but that opens up immense opportunities and potential for all of you. So, I think most importantly, you guys are living, guys, as I mean guys and girls, obviously, are living in a much more exciting world than what we sort of were born into. Your opportunities are more, and I'm sure that your access to information is more, your access to those opportunities is more. So go out there, and I'm sure that all of you can and will do very, very well.
Thank you. I think all of you have collectively raised very valuable points and thoughts, because, one always feels and thinks, for these students who are just at that very impressionable age of 16, 17 years, like whether they really actually understand to be able to, set their professional goals with such precision. I mean, on the other hand, that is also the demand of the times that we live now. And so kind of, to be able to identify a very, very absolute interest in relation to career path is kind of also building a lot of pressure on our students. And we talk about, we have to reduce their stress levels and anxiety levels. So where can we really, play a role? It's at the school level, where the school is able to guide them and put them on a track, or it is the college, when they have their, because I think once they write the board exams, when the marks come out, there is always this rush. I mean, people are just looking for, okay, what I'm getting, because I was also going through the questions, and that is exactly what students are also asking. There is this competition, and everybody's in a rush to get into the best college, best course, parental pressure, peer pressure. What will society think? All certain things have not changed at all. So where exactly, I mean, would you think maybe we could start with again Dr. Vaidya Subramaniam? How would you really, um, I mean, what would your suggestion be to students?
Okay. By students, I'm also including parents along with them, because today it's a decision that is jointly taken. Now, I fully agree that there is a rush towards a certain set of courses, and some of them are quote within quote, popular courses. And I very strongly believe that, popularity comes with no invitation and leaves with no farewell. So it's just the taste of the time. And that students just, rush to such popular courses. But having said that, there is also some empirical basis behind the popularity. So, what students and parents need to understand is to clearly separate the fringe from the core of those courses that are deemed to be popular. And that's not necessarily just in medicine, engineering, or sciences. Today, the canvas is growing bigger and bigger to include law, humanities, economics, public policy, and all sorts of career options that Dr. Sumant mentioned. But in this mindless rush, one thing that I notice is happening is students are beginning to get a feeling. I'm not talking about everybody, but a majority of them are beginning to get a feeling that they will lose the race if they don't actually participate in advance. So much to say that they start running even before the race has started. So, my advice to such students is just like water finds its own path in a very calibrated manner. First, make sure that your class 12 board examinations and other competitive examinations, you just go through that process, have a very soft and steady pace of mind to undertake that process, and wait for the results to actually come and present right up to your face, and then you take your decisions. Because if you're rushing, the decision might not be entirely yours. You might be a product of somebody else's decision, and that really, really affects you when you actually get into those degree programs which were not your original fascination. So first, take your class 12 examinations and competitive examinations if you're appearing. Wait for the results. The results, like water, will actually take you to the right place. And then at that point of a decision making, decide whether that is the career of your choice or you would like to experiment something. Of course, as Anirudh said, have the fear of failure not just dominating your decision making, but at least supporting you to take right decisions, and then start loving the course that you have taken. So don't rush, just pause, cross the signal, and then take the right way.
I know many things are easier said than done, but given the competition that we have today, and which was perhaps not there, say 30 years ago, and life was so much more easier and uncomplicated, perhaps. Dr. Sumant, what would you advise? Kabilan is asking, what advice would you give a Gen Z student today to remain relevant, resilient, and responsible over the next 20 years?
I think, first of all, making any prediction for 20 years is very, very hazardous with the way and the pace at which technology is actually changing the way we live, the way we operate, the kind of jobs that are available. So, I think a more reasonable guess would be probably 5 to 10 years, where we can sort of at least try to make an educated guess. Two things. Now, as I said, the reason I spoke and sort of harp on AI is many people don't seem to have understood what AI actually is. They think it's like some kind of something that is coming from outside as a specialized area. AI is essentially going to be part of everything that we do. Now, it's going to be part of machines, it's going to be part of systems, it's going to be part of devices, everything. And the most important thing that, people also still don't seem to sort of understand is it's like I draw the analogy with the computer or the IT industry. The IT industry has hardware, IT industry has software, IT industry has chip making components, and so on. Huge, it's an entire ecosystem. So, would I would I sort of suggest that AI will have a profound impact, and therefore to consider a career in AI, I would certainly look at that. But again, it's just one option. And when we talk about AI, it doesn't mean you AI will be in law, AI will be in humanities, AI will be in medicine, AI will be in engineering. So I think that we need to look at this as some kind of a overweening kind of platform. So if you are looking at technology options, I would certainly look at AI as a career option. Early birds generally do well. So always there will be a hype cycle. So maybe in 10 years' time, the AI hype may have peaked, but it's something that it's so profound that it's very, very difficult for any of us to sort of predict and say that this is what is going to happen. But the pace at which things are happening, and I'm talking about earlier, these things used to happen in decades, then it came down to years, now it is down to weeks. So the capabilities of these systems. So I would suggest that if though there are those who are interested, look at areas which are you are passionate about and see how you can incorporate AI in them. So that may be a very, very good career option for many of you going forward.
Anirudh, the fact that you switched from engineering to law, and you also did mention about do things that make you happy. So it has resonated with a lot of people, and I'm combining a couple of questions which are directed to you. So Arun Kumar Durairaj is asking, should we focus on interested areas as informed by Mr. Anirudh, or what we are born with, the talent we are born with? Should we stick to that? That is one part of the question. Another question is that I have, there was this. I'm a third year law student, says Ash Babu, but not interested in litigation or court practices. And my interests lie mostly on the criminal field and human rights. So I'm not sure what careers are available relating to these sectors. So if you could just combine these two and give your
Yes.
answer.
Yes. So there would be certain inherent talents that each individual would have. Now, usually you are interested in furthering your talent. So therefore, to work on an area that you're talented in but not interested in, and vice versa, is quite rare. So hopefully, if you are interested in, say, law and you have the basic skill set, then go for it. Now, law provides various options. It's not just about litigation today. You obviously have the corporate law firm set up. But in addition to that, I think the person who asked the question mentioned that he was interested in criminal law.
And
Now you
human
have,
rights.
and human rights. So you have institutions like People's Union of Civil Liberties that take up major issues of human rights. Human rights may involve going to court at some point of time to have them enforced, but there is a lot of work that goes on beyond that. You will need to research, you'll have to see the policy across countries. So you could join an institution such as PUCL that is fully into human rights issues. You could also look at policy. So you have today Vidi Center of Legal Policy that works closely with the central government and various state governments in framing policy. That is an aspect. You could also then go down the entrepreneurial route. You could, for instance, look at Dr. Sumant was referring to AI. Now, today you have various AI tools for lawyers, and those are getting more specialized. So you have now tools that will help lawyers draft, tools that will help lawyers research, etc. So you could look at AI in the field of criminal law. So there are multiple options. So I would not, well, litigation is something that is common. Even if you're not interested in litigation, there are so many career options in law. And while on AI, I just want to make one statement before I finish my answer. It may not be directly connected to the question, but we need to be careful if you're not in AI as a career, but while using AI, we need to be a little careful because sometimes I see youngsters too early on using AI to substitute their natural thinking. AI is a useful additional tool that you can use. But if you are going to, as a lawyer, for instance, if you are going to use AI to come up with drafts of petitions or plaints that you will have to draft in your first year, you will never learn to draft. So you need to be careful in how you handle AI. Thank you.
Okay. Shruti, let me bring you in now with Abhinay Lakshmi's question, which says she's asking, what are the most in-demand skills students should start building from college days to stay future ready?
Okay, so that's a very interesting question. In terms of skills, I think one should definitely move over the degrees lens and get into the skills lens. So I'm glad that she's thinking in the right direction, and it's important to also learn from people who are on the field doing things and not just stick to bookish knowledge, because the fastest and the most clear insights come from people who are doing the work. Now the buzz is around AI. Of course, AI, just like how we've been using computing, digital came into our lives. Now AI is the imminent part of how we are doing thinking, learning things. Having said that, I think it's important to have empathetic design first thinking embedded, so that we are able to bring in the goodness of AI and all of those emerging technologies into the fray to be ready for the future. Because the future does not belong to people who predict it, it actually belongs to people who are preparing for multiple possibilities. I think that is very core. Are we able to stay relevant? Once you graduate out of your 12th or college, it's like you've obtained your license to drive. But it doesn't mean that you're done with that process, right? Because that's when the real journey starts and you're exploring the world with the capability that you have built up to be able to visit multiple places and navigate your life and career, and with all of those. So I would say degrees are important, but building skills, getting your hands dirty is very important. Communication is super important. Digital literacy, AI, technology, problem solving capabilities are very core. Building basic financial awareness is very important, irrespective of whichever field one may be in. It's important to have an open mind. In fact, I would recommend not shy away from asking for help, because I think help and assistance and support come to people who ask for it. So it's important to step up and ask for help. Just like karai nalladu, confusion is also nalladu. Confusion is good because it really helps clear your mind, and you actually get better clarity once you do it. So I would say, just like Nike, just do it.
Like in our education system, there's a lot of focus of students, what they earn a degree to get a job. That is the priority. So I think there's this question, presumably from a teacher, Arun Kumar, who's saying, how can I attract student in classrooms? Because nowadays students are joining, no, they're enrolling to get not only to get a degree. I mean, I think that's what it means, but people are just looking at courses that will get them good jobs. So how to attract students in a classroom?
Okay, I'll take this question since I'm also teaching. I have this message to the students which I put forth right at my first day of the class. I say, students, you have to really work hard to fail my course. So, which does, and at the same time, it doesn't mean that it's easy to pass my course. The sum and substance of this statement is that you have to make your classes as interactive as possible. And as Shruti was mentioning, the amount of experiential and immersive learning that comes from skill based, if it's going to be in engineering sciences, and law also requires a lot of skilling. And also in certain courses which are not hands on in terms of skilling, but there is a lot of mental skilling that has got to be in the right place. For all such courses, you will have to really break the conventional norms and make your assessments really, really contemporary. If not contemporary, at least make it freed away from the stereotypes of the assessments that we usually undertake. And once students begin to realize that this course is not about just passing and getting some credits with some grades, it's about achieving certain learning outcomes. And the process of achieving those learning outcomes have broken some conventional barriers. And the way in which you achieve those outcomes are based on assessments that are truly next generational. because we are talking about Gen Z who you can frame as many rules as you want, but Gen Z know how to break each and every one of the rule that you have in place in terms of classroom conduct and examination conduct. So you give them the freedom of thought to exercise that in a very matured way. And it requires maturity for faculty at the first place to put those things in place. And then students, by way of mutual trust, will start respecting the faculty's rules of the game and start playing by that.
There are a lot of all of you are focused on AI, and there are a couple of questions on whether AI is a bubble, given that it is racing ahead of any other domain. And somebody is asking which way I could enhance my technical knowledge over the AI tools and be like more maybe refined in soft skills, which is actually important for the market. That also, I mean, you have some of you have said it could be a little repetitive, but because we have to address all the worries and issues of our participants, so I'm just taking these questions. So yeah, who would like to
So I
go with
can
this?
maybe get started about talking about AI from two aspects. One is readiness of using AI as a consumer, which I think is very important for everybody. The other aspect is using AI as a creator. May not be applicable for everybody, but then this is probably a subset of people who will have to be, in that mindset with those capabilities, get ready for those. So now AI as a consumer, I think the tools are many which are available to us, right from chat GPTs to Geminis to whatnot. So I think it is just about getting started, getting help from people to know how to use those. Nowadays, most applications are also embedding AI in their, the way that they're offering. So I think that's a no-brainer at this point of time. With respect to using AI as a creator, now that is something that I would really urge people to move towards, because that is really where some applied knowledge starts manifesting. It's about thinking about problems and envisioning them in ways, the solutions which become more seamless and more intuitive. It is about putting yourself in the customer space, in the experiencer space. How would you like to be treated? So that's where AI really brings in the power. Now, how to get ready for it? I think the very first point is, now if we are talking about students and faculty members and more of academicians, I think the best possible way is to form a small community. Just get together with a couple of people who are involved and engaged and want to learn that subject. There are so many courses which are available on the web, be it on Coursera or Udemy or even on YouTube. There are plenty of courses. The likes of Kaggle, they provide plenty of data sets for us to play around with. So, getting started from there is again a very simple task. But then the biggest bottleneck or the barrier will be, hey, I'm not able to get my first line of code, the output to my first line of code. And that's where the community power comes in. In my experience, I've always seen that the more younger people you involve in your community of learning, they have a better risk propensity. They are not afraid of failures. They are ready to go break things and learn how it works. So having that sort of a multi-age group kind of a thing brings in both the risk-taking appetite. The learning becomes much accelerated with the more older people bringing in more expertise to that, and it becomes very holistic. So those are my couple of cents where I have personally worked with several interns, faculty members in my corporate role at NatWest and Cisco. It has been a seamless journey of sorts, applying AI for multiple different domains, and I think it is here to change. It is here to stay, and we better get started on that journey.
So would anybody like to add inputs to
Yeah,
that?
can
Or
I? I just
yeah,
want to
sure.
add one very quick point, and that is, let me sort of give you a personal experience. I am not a coder. I do not know how to write code. Recently, I created an end-to-end application which would have probably taken a regular coding resource at least 3 to 4 weeks in about an hour. So what I'm trying to say is a lot of things which are unthinkable even 5, 10 years ago are now becoming possible. And all it took was a small $20 subscription on Anthropic's Claude to actually make that possible. I mean, I don't know how to do this. I would have probably gone out and needed to hire somebody in the market to do this. But the point I'm trying to get at is today you have a great idea. You now have the capability to put that idea into practice, which you could never have contemplated doing without either A, investing a lot of time or investing a lot of money and getting people to do things. So today, that barrier to entry into anything, which was there earlier, I give you a simple analogy. Before YouTube, uh, YouTube channels came into being. You only had television channels, and television you needed huge money to sort of set up a TV channel and run it. And what did YouTube and the online world, social media do? It democratized the whole thing. Anybody with a mobile phone technically became somebody who could produce recordings and stream them. So I think that AI has given us the opportunity to literally attempt anything that we think is possible and attempt that at a with minimal amount of investment of time and energy. And I think that is where youngsters, so the most important part is no idea is too stupid. So I think all of us keep saying, people will tell you that this is never going to work, this is bad, this is stupid. But today it is possible to test out many of these concepts much easier than it would have ever happened in the past. So I think youngsters watching this, please start using it. You can't learn to swim standing on the shore. You have to get into the water. So please start using it. These tools are, the vast majority of them to get started are free. So you already have access. You already can start using it right away. And that's the best way to learn, not necessarily through getting certification programs and so on. If you just want to know, how do I get into this? The best way is jump in and swim.
I think at the core, what remains is, to be willing to learn and to keep abreast of all develop. So again, back to around a lot of questions on AI. That with AI and automation advancing rapidly, which careers are more at risk for Gen Z, or which are the more lucrative careers? Because now it is not only about getting a job with your degree, but also getting a high salaried job with your degree. That is what the Gen Z looks at. So, would any one of you like to give your inputs on which are the careers which could take off or which are at risk? And
Okay. Actually, I would answer this question by stretching what Shruti and Dr. Suman said previously. Is it's not about AI education alone, because many of the youngsters believe that if they have to make a career in AI, then they have to come out with a degree program in computer science with AI and all of that. No, actually, AI is cutting across all forms of education, and that's the first thing that they have to understand. Now, today, the difference is between somebody who knows how to engage with AI versus somebody who has not used AI. The reason that I'm saying this is because you can use AI by learning computer science, but you can also use AI when you do mechanical engineering and use some of the AI tools that are freely available and that are so easy to use them in your mechanical engineering or in your legal education or in your medical education or in your teacher education or in your arts, economics, public policy, whatever it is. So a lucrative career is not just because you got a degree in computer science and AI. A lucrative career is the difference that you can make by knowing how to engage with AI in any form of education that you decide to undertake. And that, I think, is clearly making the difference in the next 5 years when students graduate with different degrees. They are going to be, I'm not saying they are not important, but the areas of difference are diminishing. And AI is going to be the defining factor that reduces this gap across different certifications.
I would also like to come in on this. So I think AI will make certain jobs redundant in every sector, but there is always scope and the to evolve. So, for instance, as a lawyer, it may AI may be able to prepare a proper chronology of events. But how do you use that chronology of events? Therefore, that is where your skill set comes in. There is a very interesting book that I read by Cal Newport called Deep Work. And what he says is that in the next 10 years, it is those who master the skill of learning and relearning hard things who will do the best. Because a lot of things you learn, those things become obsolete because AI has taken over. Then you need to learn a new skill set. So that I thought was a very important message that I should convey.
So I'll stick with you, Anirudh, because there are questions. I think there's one very pained student, Vedant Kumar Singh, has written an extremely long question. I'm trying to summarize it, which essentially is trying to say is he's interested in doing law. He reads a lot of some 450 books on law he has already read, but he has not cleared CLAT 2025. Now, he's also good in acting and he has been praised for his acting, but he feels that industry is very uncertain. So he wants your advice because he feels law is a good backup option. But for him, if he does not do later well in acting, and whereas basically he's unsure with both. He likes both, and what he should do.
Okay, I may not be the best person to guide him on whether or not acting is the field to be in because I really don't have the experience. But on not getting through CLAT, I think there are so many good options outside CLAT. Today, I see a lot of students say, oh, I didn't get number one or number two. What do I do? Now, today, there are at least 8 to 10 good options in the country, right? So you get into any of these, you have great opportunities. About 15, 20 years ago, there were possibly only about 3 or 4 top universities that provided you those opportunities. Today, there are so many of them. So don't bother. You haven't got into CLAT. There are other opportunities you can look at. There are so many other universities outside CLAT. Well, you don't get into any of them in the first year. You can always prepare and reapply next year. That's another option as well. So I don't get disheartened by the fact that you did not clear CLAT this year. In fact, you have Shastra, you have Jindal. I think all of these are outside the regular CLAT system.
Yeah, I think with your answer, you have answered 2 additional questions because that's exactly what people wanted to know, apart from NLU, which are the other best law schools in India.
In the lighter vein, 1 minute, in the lighter
Yes.
vein, Anirudh, I think you will agree with no offenses meant to lawyers. Lawyers at times also have to be good actors and they'll have to dramatize certain things in court. So that's also one
Yes.
important thing, to be a successful lawyer.
Very true. Very true.
What jobs are at threat? I would say virtually every job faces some level of threat. The point is lower end jobs, routine, mechanical processing of data jobs, BPO related services, all of these are at very, very high risk. So I wouldn't say that other jobs are totally safe, but the lower end jobs are definitely at very, very high risk. And quite honestly, the way we look at it today, the ones that appear quite safe for the moment are jobs that are traditionally sort of associated with human labor. So that is something that may not human labor as in a contractor or somebody who's a builder or and so on. So those kind of jobs at the moment seem to be much safer than quote unquote the IT sector and the traditional jobs which were once looked upon.
Dr. Sumant, I know you yourself are quite an influencer on the social media. So you better take this question from Kabilan, who's saying, are non-traditional careers quote unquote content creation, gaming, freelancing, startups, how far do you think these are going to be sustainable in the long run?
Okay, let me be extremely honest on this. Um, we get we constantly see a handful of influencers, content creators, social media personalities, and say, "Oh my God, see what they have done!" And they post all kinds of snazzy. This is the bungalow I bought after 10 months of blogging, or some such thing like that, and people get carried away. Look, the shelf life of influencers on social media is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. The percentage that makes it to the top is minuscule. So if you're actually, if that's your passion, do it. But have an insurance policy on the side where you have a main career which is going on. That's why I said you can do more than one thing at a time. Technology has today given that access to you. You want to create social media posts, do it after office hours. So there's a bread and butter job that keeps coming in. And then at some stage, you feel that you can, this will be sufficient to sustain you over a longer period of time or take you to the next level. Then you can give up your job. But let me give you two little examples. Instagram creation of reels. There was an entire industry, advertising, marketing agencies doing creation of reels. Today, there are established companies which do their own reel creation using AI. You just give it the script and a video is generated 45 seconds. You use something like Veo, you get everything out in literally 2 minutes, right? So, I don't know how many of you are aware. Elon Musk spoke about the first fully AI Hollywood movie, which is expected in 2026. That is, none of the characters exist. Nothing in that movie actually exists. It's completely generated by a system. So where are creative where the creators are heading? Copywriting, for instance, advertising agencies, so a whole lot of agents jobs face big threats. So my advice, sincere advice, you definitely, if you have a passion for social media, indulge in it, but do it in your spare time, or do it when you have when you have something stable, which is bringing in some revenue for you, and you can always take a call if you want to quit your job and jump into this. Remember, most social media influencers do not cross the 3 to 4 year mark in terms of generating significant returns. 3 to 4 years, it hits a peak and then it comes down, which is why they get more and more desperate. They have to put up more outrageous things, more, and then the name gets spoiled and the credibility goes down. So don't see only the success stories. They are less than 0.0001%.
I know it's a fascinating world, but scary. Dr. Vaidya, we would also shift a little bit. The focus is always on the traditional careers or the course programs, law, engineering, medicine, CLAT, this, that. So there are a couple of questions on to are requesting you to focus on humanities subjects. There are questions from a political science student, one architecture program student. So if you could just throw a light on those
Yeah.
programs also.
Yeah.
Economics. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just.
Yeah, it's a very relevant question, and I would like to just borrow the innovation when of IDEO, which is a design thinking company. They say the spot of innovation lies in the convergence of human desirability, technological feasibility, and economic viability. While technological feasibility and all of that is through STEM education, economic viability is through management and finance. That human desirability part is something that actually drives technology and finance and all of those things that we see in the conventional mode of education. But in the humanities, which as a larger construct is the one that addresses the social engineering and human desirability part. And that today is also getting very popular, given the fact that many of the products and services that hit the market at scale are the ones that touches lives and livelihoods of many. And the requirement of those livelihoods is about understanding human behavior, the way in which the society and the human beings interact. And these are those moments that actually provide critical inputs for people who are in STEM education, others to work on them. So I would still feel that though it is not popular, it is highly in demand nowadays. And I see a lot of students joining, taking this non conventional career path, not because it is did not get into engineering or other. They have taken that on their own volition, their choice. They are choosing these programs because they think, and they rightly think so, that there is a big career potential lying ahead of them in these type of courses. So if these youngsters are already aiming at that, please go for that. And if you really get into a good program and do well, there is a lot of career opportunities that lie ahead of you.
And I
Shruti,
would like to add to that point as well. Now we're also seeing that many such skills are applicable to so and so mainstream areas of manufacturing or banking or telecom or whatever may be considered more niche for engineering. Actually, you will see there are interconnects between areas which are considered to be humanities or art subject. There is a huge need. I also saw a question on how psychology may be relevant. There is so much of behavioral analysis, for example, being done in the banking space. You need to understand the mindset of the fraudster. You need to understand the mindset of the customer, the consumer. So I think it's important to weave the dots and see look at more cross disciplinary approaches to how you can apply your learnings. And design thinking definitely lends the pathway to that.
yeah, I think every sector, every industry has its own scope. It is just listening to our inner voice and being able to deliver the best. Could you also guide on, some students have asked about what are the skills and experiences which are mandatory, which we need to highlight in our resumes for future job opportunities? Shruti, would you like to take
Yeah,
that?
so I think the most important thing is to be honest. Just putting in stuff for the sake of it doesn't uh, cut. So the first thing that I would definitely look at is it grammatical error free. So running a simple spell check or a grammar check is the first thing that I would recommend anybody to do. Second, be honest with what you're putting in. Don't claim to put in things that somebody, your friend, your classmate has done. Don't put in things just because they have to be. Third, now we spoke so much about AI. Use AI to your advantage. Use AI to articulate it in ways which would actually resonate with the readers. You may want to, write points which are, just bullet points of sorts, but make it with the right kind of narrative which resonates with the recruiters who are sifting your resumes. In fact, even today on the HR side, AI systems are in place. You have systems which are automatically sifting through your resume. So it's important to ensure that your profiles are running through their systems. Finally, I think it's important to understand the scope of what your target companies are looking for. Say, somebody, for example, if they are willing to apply to NatWest, my parent organization, I think it's important for them to understand what NatWest stands for, what NatWest is looking for. So a bit of homework will definitely go a very long way in able to curate and customize the content which is very relevant to the company that they are applying for. And last but not the least, I think it's important to network. I think gone are the days where you just say apply and a call comes your way. Today it's important to build that trust both online and offline. Like Dr. Suman said, it's important to build your brand, again, both online and offline. So I would suggest people populate some of their, not just Instagrams, but also their LinkedIn profiles with some of their achievements, some takeaways, their learnings. I think it's important to portray them. For the technologists, I think it's important to put in your projects like on a GitHub, GitLab, or something like that. Put up your projects and talk about how you've done those, what sort of outcome, what sort of impact you've made with that. For designers, people regularly ask for your portfolio page. so that they can take examples and understand your capabilities. So, showcasing your capabilities in a smart way beyond just building your resume in a textual format, I think that's the need of the hour.
Just one quick point. When you get your CV ready, don't make it over flowery. Okay, don't use AI to make it such a hype CV that it immediately it comes across. And I'll give you all a little cheat code. There are now tools where you can talk to the system for 2 minutes so that it understands your level of English, it understands your fluency with the language, and then it will modify your CV to beat the recruiter who sees this and says this is rubbish. This is written by an AI tool. So you can actually dumb down the CV a little bit, because there's nothing worse than a recruiter looking at a CV that looks completely written by AI, and he or she knows immediately. So the joke is, you generate an AI generated CV and send it to the HR. HR uses a tool which is also AI generated to sift and reject your CV. So that's what is actually starting to happen. So dumb it down, keep it practical. So you should be able to justify what is in the CV when you're talking to them. If you can't justify it, you can put whatever hype you want in the CV, it will fall flat. So if you can't walk the talk, dumb it down, maybe bring the language down a little bit so that it doesn't look obviously that the entire thing has been created by AI.
And very often they ask for, recruiters ask for writing samples. And there, please don't use AI at all, because there are softwares that detect how much is AI generated. And if somebody sends us an AI generated piece, straight away we reject them.
I know, actually, we ourselves can dictate AI, because AI is basically the information that we humans are feeding into the system. And as you also mentioned, it's best to be the creative, original thinker. There's an interesting question which I would like small inputs from each of you, because we are also kind of nearing the closure of the session. What should matter more in a career? To be employable today or be indispensable tomorrow? So I find this very interestingly worded. So I thought if all of you could give your little inputs, employable today or indispensable tomorrow?
My spontaneous response is that you have to be first employable today to become indispensable tomorrow. Only if somebody understands your worth, then you become indispensable the next day. And to make yourself worthy of a job, be employable today to become indispensable tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. It's all very kind of more twisting and confusing. Because there is another similar related question from the same person who's saying that we also talk about more opportunities and experience. So if a Gen Z changes his career say 5 times, what would you say? Is it failure, or is it freedom, or is it some kind of evolution?
So you may need to identify your broad areas of interest. 5 times is perhaps one too many. One or two is understandable, but within your broad areas of interest, you need to experiment to find out what your final goal is going to be. I don't think you can identify your goal when you start your career. You may identify broad areas of interest. Within that, you try out maybe 5, 6 internships, a couple of jobs, and then realize, okay, this is what I want to do. But if you've changed your career 5 times, the sixth employer is going to think that you're going to be there only for a few months. So I would think you can't. There's a line between being flexible and being flippant, and I think we need to draw that line.
And one little point on indispensable. I very strongly believe nobody is indispensable anywhere. So I think that it's probably a question of an organization taking 2 months to replace you versus taking 2 days to replace you. But nobody eventually is indispensable. The bottom line is also that we need to give some value to having a happy, fulfilling career. it's all very well to say that, I must have a high flying career, but the bottom line is, if that is not giving you happiness, if it is not making you contented, if it is not making, it's not fulfilling for you at an emotional level, then you may you may be having a quote unquote high flying career, but I mean, the purpose of what the career should actually mean to you is lost. If you're constantly going to be stressed out, if you're constantly going to be unhappy, but you're chasing some dream because you're getting a lot of money alone on it, I think that you need to reconsider your choices. So I think the important thing is, you have to assign a value, some percentage, whether it is, it varies between individuals, whether you put 20% saying that, look, I need to be happy doing this, or I need to be at least reasonably satisfied, or I should not be unhappy doing this, right? So I think that whether it is 10 or 20 or 30%, it's an individual choice, but you have to factor that in somewhere, especially when you talk of a career. If you're talking of a 6 month internship, it doesn't matter. If you're talking of a 1 year certification program, it doesn't matter. But if you're talking of a lifelong career, at 50 or 60, you don't want to say that I made a lot of money, but I've missed my life. So I think that that's not where you want to be.
Yeah, I concur with that aspect. We've seen so many narratives called lean in and all that. It's good to stretch over and beyond what you can think out of the box. But then, going back to our basics, சுவர் இருந்தால் தான் சித்திரம் எழுத முடியும். Only if you have a proper fundamental, foundation and canvas, you can actually paint a good picture on top of it. So I would double click on that and place larger emphasis on well-being, both mental, physical, spiritual. I think well-being has to be focused on beyond all of what we are thinking about our careers.
And no,
I,
I think for that we, sorry, you were
no,
saying
I,
something.
I concur with that. And I would also like to go back to what I started, do what you like. But while well being is great and that's important, I think we also need to step out of our comfort zone and push ourselves that little extra, especially during the formative period.
So this
So
one
yeah,
little aspect that we missed was, there were these questions about students wishing to apply to Ivy colleges or universities abroad, where usually the lot of focus is on extracurricular activities and real life skills. But they say that the school education is so formatted that we don't get any time for anything extra, because we also are looking at a fallback and writing our competitive exams. So, would you advise some of these, any easy assessment tools or the aptitude tests? Do you think those really help? Where maybe the student or their parents are not able to decide, that inner voice, inner calling is not coming, there's too much confusion. So, what are those specific tools, self-assessment tools that you would recommend? With a couple of questions on that, and we should not miss it.
Well, actually, I'm assuming that these are students who want to pursue undergraduate education at these Ivy colleges. And most of them are the ones that use SAT scores or other uh, empirical competitive exam scores, which are organically designed to capture these type of schooling level learning outcomes. So if your schooling has been good, and if you have really achieved those learning outcomes, it will reflect in those scores. And my response to that is, you don't have to do anything extra to actually get an admit into these colleges, except that your statement of purpose and other social activities and how we have contributed to community service, because those are all value adds for admissions. But by and large, these competitive examinations, especially the types of SAT, factor in this level of learning outcomes at school level, not the math, physics, chemistry, but more beyond that, the other logical thinking, reading comprehension, analytical skills, all of this is captured in SAT. So if your schooling has been good and the way it has to be, then I think you should just push back, be confident, submit a good SOP and start applying.
I
If
think
I
we
may
have,
again just add to that part and tying back to the point that Anirudh mentioned earlier, this is also where we should encourage students to do more of career sampling because one, it adds to their own discovery of which areas they would be interested in. Two, it also adds to their understanding of their capabilities, interests, skill sets. So they end up not spending time at five companies. Instead, they would have done that in a left shift mode while they were doing their education in their formative years. So career sampling is something that I would definitely recommend.
Yeah, I mean, it really pains me when I read questions like this from students, like somebody's again writing that in a society that glorifies income over impact. So, how can parents confidently support their children to choose service oriented careers? I mean, it is not just the students. We are, as it is, burdening our students and leaving them to own their own, like choice, career choice. But as we often see, that parents are also not always convinced, and it really does bother me. And there are, I mean, still I think 150 to 200 questions left unanswered, many directed towards you, Anirudh, because very specifically people want to talk about law, and the rest are all about I'm doing this subject and what are my future prospects. And a lot of questions for Shastra University also, sir, where people want to know what are the requirements and how they could go about it, and which course is good in Shastra, what are the placement opportunities. And so those, I don't know, maybe you could choose to answer them separately. I am forced to close down this program because of time. And so, as we all understand that in this ongoing journey of self discovery and growth, it is extremely crucial to explore, of course, our own self and a variety of industries to find how our passions, our skills, our personal values, and long term objectives align. Navigation through kind of all professional aspirations is a journey that requires self reflection, goal setting, and of course, continuous learning. So, thank you very much, Dr. Vaidya Subramaniam, Dr. Sumant Raman, Shruti Kannan, and Arvind Krishnan for your inputs and valuable time on a Sunday. And I'm sure our audience is returning with several key takeaways from today's discussion. And thank you, participants, for sending in so many questions, and hopefully they'll be answered in due course of time. The webinar on navigating careers paths was jointly presented by Shastra, deemed to be university in association with the Hindu Education Plus under the Career Counseling series. Thank you all once again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Keep that.